Kia ora koutou, katoa, Markie here, the grizzled walrus of retroactive jealousy with the camera the wrong way round and the homespun production but full of meat. Okay, this is the channel that has very little style but lots of content. So I haven't done anything on retroactive jealousy for a little while. I've got a few more in the pipeline. So today I want to talk about scammers and charlatans and fraudsters in the retroactive jealousy treatment world. People that will try and get your money and not give you anything or give you very little in return. So I think I boiled this down. There's three areas I want to focus on here. I also want to kind of just point out really that there are some, I'm not for one moment saying that everybody else is a charlatan and a fraudster. I've got a lot of respect for some of the people in the RJ recovery world, and I've done another video on this which I'll put in the link in the description box below, talking about what I think about other RJ providers and my kind of vision for the future of RJ, because I think we need to be working together. Okay, so and I've been very candid in that video. So I've talked about I've named some names and talked about some individuals and given them an honest opinion about their positives and their negatives. Okay, so I've been a little bit not very critical really, but a little bit critical here and there, and I've kind of said it how it is really. Generally speaking, I've been positive, and I am positive about some of the other people in the retroactive jealousy world. But there are some sharks in the sea. Three different ways of looking at this, I think. The first one, I just want to get this one out of the way really, and make things very clear. I'm a psychotherapist, experienced psychotherapist who had RJ, got well, and now among other things, I'm heading up a team providing help for RJ. And all the people in my team are qualified counsellors, stroke psychotherapists. In fact, they're very qualified. I'm lucky to have a really good team. But I'm not saying that everybody who offers help for retroactive jealousy, if even commercially, has to be a counsellor or a psychotherapist. Okay, so there are people that come at this from different angles. So there are people that come at this from different professions. So some might come from a nursing profession, some might come from a coaching point of view, and some might be lay people. And I think I don't have a problem with this as long as people are, well, two things really. First of all, they say that, they state that very clearly. And two, they don't stray beyond their knowledge base. So if they start to talk about things that are beyond their level of qualification, that really they haven't got the training in or the background in, that would be a worry. But I don't have a problem. So for example, Zachary, as far as I'm aware, certainly from the start, he's always said he's not a therapist, he's not a doctor, and he's provided very good, lots of good input and advice from a layman's perspective. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I think there are times when the help you need does need to take the form of psychotherapy and counselling, and I've talked about that in other videos, but I certainly wouldn't say don't go to a good layperson. Better to go to a good layperson and a bad therapist for guidance on retroactive jealousy. Okay, so clarity, honesty, being frank, and working within your limitations. As long as somebody does that, I don't have a problem if they're not a psychotherapist or a counsellor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or one of the qualified professions. Okay, so that's the first bit. Okay, so the second part is there are some people who they're not scamming you, but they're scamming other RJ providers. So there are people out there who take a quick look at my stuff, take a quick look at Zachary Stockhill's stuff, and then reproduce it in the raw or with a few minor modifications and sell it, if you like, as their own. Okay, so that may still be helpful to the sufferer, but it's not fair play. it's like, so I draw on lots of people from the RJ world and beyond the RJ world, and so if I'm using the ideas of somebody else, as I frequently do, I will give them credit for that. There are some cases where I can't remember where I've got something from, and I'm very apologetic. Rather than not share it, the risk of not sharing something that could be very helpful, I share it kind of with an apology and a caveat that I can't remember the source. And I'm always open to people kind of telling me if anyone knows the source, putting it in the comments box. But I wouldn't just kind of blindly use somebody else's material without giving any nod or credit to them. Okay, so the third category, which is the worrying one. Okay, this is the one to really be careful of, and this is people who are just jumping back actually to part one. Be careful of people who claim to be qualified, but maybe aren't. That's something to be aware of. So people that are members of the main helping professions usually have a professional body that people are registered with, and you can check with that professional body, or you can ask to see somebody's certificate, or you can check out people's bona fides. You can do that due diligence, and also check out some trainings, because so for example, this came up recently. I was concerned about the training that somebody had done in order to use the word therapy, although they didn't claim to be a therapist. They were using the word therapy, and having looked into the training, this particular mode of training, it can be completed online and in as little as 3 months. Okay, so I'm not saying that that's complete rubbish and won't be of any use, but I would just be cautious of that, really. And also, again, if somebody's just got that 3 months training, even though they're not claiming to be a therapist, there's a kind of an implication in the way that it's marketed that it is somebody that's a qualified professional. So I'm being a little bit. I'm not going to kind of unequivocally say that that's a bad thing, but what I'm going to say is I think that would need, a little bit of prodding and poking to find out just what you're getting. So just be careful with people who claim to be more qualified than they are, or more experienced than they are, or better trained than they are, really. And again, as long as they're working within the limitations, somebody might have a briefer training or a more limited training, and they might have some personal experience, and as long as they're not making any false claims, that's absolutely fine. But I'd just be cautious around some qualifications, I would say. And also, check out people's bona fides. If somebody, often therapists don't like to self-disclose very well. So some therapists in the retroactive jealousy world are people who are in recovery from it themselves, which is great, and some aren't, which is also great. You can't expect every therapist to have experienced exactly the same thing. If they know about OCD and they've done their study, then they can still be useful to you. But be careful of anyone that claims to be in recovery from retroactive jealousy who isn't. So this is, again, I come across people who are kind of very sketchy. You ask people kind of a little bit about their experience and they don't answer the questions, which is always a bit worrying. Watch out as well for YouTube channels where the comments are all too good to be true. If something is too good to be true, then it probably isn't true. And notice how they deal with criticism as well. If, for example, somebody, if there's no negative comments on something, it might be that somebody's deleted them. And you have to ask, why have they deleted them? So I suppose a lot of this applies to any kind of therapy, really. But some of this is relevant because I've come across this recently. So on to point 3. Point 3, the most worrying one and the most serious one is people who are offering snake oil, spurious cures. Literally offering something that will not be fit for purpose, offering a program. I'm talking about programs and therapy here, because some people offer online programs, for example, which is great. Online programs are good. And just just beware. I mean, this is I think for me is the big warning sign, the big red flag, is if they're offering quick cures, instant cures or quick cures. There's somebody else I won't name who offers cures within 2 weeks, and I don't buy that at all. I really don't think that that's possible. Now, I will say a word about hypnotherapy as well, because hypnotherapy people think is going to be a magic bullet with retroactive jealousy. I am a hypnotherapist as well as a psychotherapist, and I do provide hypnotherapy for RJ, which can be a very useful tool to move on recovery. But I would never offer it as a cure. I would never say have a hypnotherapy session and your RJ will be gone. I don't think it works that way. So again, anybody that claims, whether it's using hypnotherapy or elements of hypnotherapy or anything like that, you can get some improvement, might get some instant improvement, but it's not going to take it away. And if it does, this is the other thing, sometimes an intervention can have an immediate, very big immediate benefit. Even a brief intervention, or even not that good an intervention, can have because there's so much relief can be obtained from realizing that you're not on your own, and that kind of, and learning a little bit about retroactive jealousy. But that can be short-lived, and the symptoms can kind of kick in again afterwards. So sometimes, I wonder if some of the feedback is when people are immediately post-treatment, post that first stage of treatment, in a treatment and in a point of elation, and give some glowing feedback, and then say that they've regressed. It's funny if I've had that actually with somebody that just came for hypnotherapy. And were hugely complimentary immediately afterwards, and then afterwards said that they'd had a regression. It wasn't somebody that opted to come back for any more treatment. So even I've had that, and I never made the claim from the start, that the hypnotherapy would be a cure, so they weren't under that illusion, but they did report very good benefits. So there is sometimes this immediate afterglow from some kind of intervention which wears off, and I think sometimes people who offer false fast cures, people are often very grateful. They feel better the next day. They give their kind of glowing testimonials and feedback, and then it all comes back again. And I have heard stories of that as well. So in short, I think a recovery from retroactive jealousy is likely to take 6 months if you're doing everything really well. 4 months possibly if you're really working hard with all the techniques. It can be up to a year, but all through that process things are getting better and better. So it's not like waiting that time and then feeling the RJ at its worst and then suddenly getting better. It's just a gradual progression and a few slips along the way. That's how the journey goes. So anyone that's offering anything shorter than 4 months at the minimum, and saying that that's the average time that people get over their retroactive jealousy with their program or with their coaching or with their therapy, I would say be very, very careful. Yeah, instant benefits, instant improvements, definitely. People often improve rapidly after a session, and often there's an element of that they can slip back from, and there's an element of that that's sustainable, particularly if they continue to work the program. I say working a program is essential. You always need to be working a program. So no one can, I would say no one can cure you of your RJ, much as people with RJ would wish that they could see somebody that would fix them. Only you can cure yourself from RJ, and it's repetitive techniques, repetitive actions that you have to do. So beware of anyone that says that they can cure you, anyone that says that even that you can cure yourself within a few weeks or a very short time span or instantly. And just check it. Like I say, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Check things out. Ask for recommendations from other people for a program. Some things you get a refund. And some people are quite good at refunds. So you could, if they're doing it through a well-known kind of platform, like an e-course through a well-known platform that offers a kind of no quibble, if you're not happy, we'll refund you, then I guess you've got nothing to lose really, apart from disappointment, self-blame, kind of just feeling worse really. So I suppose it is something to lose really. but I think it doesn't hurt to be aware of what's around there. And I always recommend to people, don't just look at my videos, look at the videos of the other people in the field that are putting them out there, and get a sense of whether they're kosher or not. But do make the most of all the diversity of help that's available out there. Use everybody, use whatever you can get wherever you can get it. But just be careful for the occasional shark. I don't think there's I don't think there's millions of sharks out there in the RJ world. I think potentially there's very few actually, but one shark is bad enough. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And if you do come across somebody that is ripping, and it makes me very angry when if I think just knowing how painful RJ is and how important it is to get good help. If there's somebody if there are bad uns out there who are ripping people off, they're not just ripping off people's money; they're interfering with their recovery. Which I think is terrible. So do report people, do challenge, do spread the word. If you come across anybody that's a bad one, you might need to do that discreetly. You might need to do. There's various different ways that you can do that. You don't necessarily have to do that kind of publicly. And you can sort of challenge individuals, ask them questions, ask them the difficult questions, ask them if there's anybody that can give a testimonial, ask them if there's anybody that's in long-term recovery that can give a testimonial. Poke and prod, because this stuff's important. It's important. This is such hell. Anything that gets in the way of people getting better is not okay. So on that note, check out my video about the other RJ providers and my vision for the future, which is about us all working together and creating, like in many other fields. So, for example, I work in the gender field, and I was part of setting up a professional body that ensured quality. So in order to be registered as a member of this body in this field of work, you had to prove yourself in a number of ways and provide referees and evidence of the amount of time you spent working in that field and what training you'd done and all that kind of thing. And then if you tell somebody that you're a member of that body, it's a stamp of quality. It means that your practice and your professionalism has been tested and assessed. And I'd like to see that in the retroactive jealousy world, which means all the people that are working in this field coming together and working together and talking to one another. And I'm very up for that. So if you're another professional watching this, talk to me. Let's work together. Let's make sure that we provide the best service for the people that we help, and that we find a way of protecting our clients, or just not necessarily our clients, but the people who are out there from being misled and abused, basically, by people with no ethics. Hope that makes sense. Rangimarie.